In this video, I would like to talk about queerness in HBO's Last of Us, especially Ellie and especially episode 7, which was such a unique and rare portrayal of a teenage romance. Overall, Last of Us showed wonderful representation without it ever feeling forced or too on the nose. Critics and viewers alike went crazy for episode 3, and rightfully so. It was a beautiful and important episode, both from a narrative perspective and from a representation perspective. That 75 minutes was dedicated to a gay love story that could have, like in the game, taken 5 minutes to tell. The uniqueness of episode 3 was more than anything its existence in that context. A high-budget TV show based on a video game with a large male audience. That this story was allowed that space without apologizing or adapting to expectations of the characters or the genre. Episode 7 was also a brave and unexpected episode, a unique representation of queerness. Regardless of genre or context, that episode and the representation within it was quite extraordinary. But it's flown under the radar in comparison. So that, especially, is what I would like to talk about today. What is it about Ellie as a character, but especially what it was with episode 7 that was so great when it comes to representing queerness? To understand why episode 7 of Last of Us was as good as it was, we have to understand why it's still a brave choice to portray homosexuality in this way. We have to be a bit political and talk about how LGBTQ youths are being met in society and therefore also how they are being portrayed in popular culture today. We will do this by talking about two topics. 1, the heterosexual moral panic, and 2, the erasure of lesbian same-sex attraction in teen girls. We will then end the video with an overall gushing over some other aspects of queer representation in HBO's Last of Us, episode 7, the heterosexual moral panic. So you're all like, heterosexual moral panic? Which one? Well, the don't force sexuality on kids panic. Ellie is 14, which means she's underage. Homosexuality among kids and young teens is extremely uncommon to see in media. But I'm gonna tell you a secret. Kids are also gay. This fact, though, is met with verbal attacks, claiming this is sexualization, pedophilia, and grooming. Why would you force sexuality on a kid? Let them be kids. Don't push your political agenda. Take a guess. Which of these two scenes has gotten censored in the Middle East and North Africa? You're right. The kiss between Ellie and Riley. It was simply cut away. This tweet was uploaded by Mohammed Khairat, and let's look at the comments regarding this fact. Bill and Frank are adults. Riley and Ellie were 16 and 14 in the DLC. It was a good move with a pretty understanding reason. Probably the fact that they're children. First kisses happen, but don't force gender preferences you want to see in society on others, especially when using minors, children, underage individuals, etc. Bill and Frank are grown-ups, and this is a sexual-like scene. So yeah, that heterosexual moral panic. Because this is only an issue when it's not heterosexuality. No one sexualizes kids as heterosexual do, with their sexualized baby sweaters, kindergarten weddings, and absurd gender reveals. They'll be like, don't push your agenda on the kids, and then do shit like this. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, sexual-like about this scene. We all know this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. If this was Ellie kissing a boy, it would not be a forced preference, and it would not be seen as sexual-like. For my Stranger Things video last summer, I read a lot, and I mean a lot, of comments regarding the general audience perception of Will Byers' sexuality. And I'm not kidding, about half of them pointed out that making 15-year-old Will homosexual is not allowing him to be a kid, inappropriate, and borderline pedophilia. The fact that the other 5 15-year-old characters had straight-up relationships was never mentioned nor seen in the same light. Homosexuality is always in itself viewed as sexual-like, and therefore rarely portrayed without sex. One of the groundbreaking aspects of Netflix Heartstopper, and one of the reasons it was so loved within the queer community, was because it dared to show homosexuality in youths and without sex. It may sound weird, that's what I'm pushing as progressive, but it is. Letting a 14-year-old showcase a sexuality that isn't heterosexuality is progressive. That episode 7 was censored when episode 3 wasn't shows how strong this idea and norm is in society. This censoring, regardless what people say, is not about them being homosexual or about them being too young for sexuality. It's about them being too young for homosexuality. So yeah, the censoring of this scene shows where society is at, and that's a bit sad. But the existence of this scene in a high-budget production also shows where society is at, or heading. Allowing Ellie to be in love, clearly infatuated by her same-sex best friend, kissing her and being happy about it, is progressive and brave representation. She is a child, and she is still allowed to be portrayed as gay. The erasure of lesbian same-sex attraction in teen girls. Even more hushed down than underage feelings of homosexuality overall is underage female homosexuality. This has many reasons behind it, but one of them is because it's so easy to diminish signs of homosexuality to girls being girls. Friendships among young girls are often all-compassing, intimate, both physically and mentally, and with a sense of ownership. Friendship bracelets and engagement rings aren't that different when you think about it. Many female friends from kids up to adult life are charged with what can only be described as a homoerotic tension. And I don't mean homoerotic in a sexual way, I mean like in a love way. I'm not going to talk about House of the Dragon for a short while, because that's a show that very well exemplifies how homoerotic female friendships impacts representation in popular culture. Rhaenyra and Alicent has a very close friendship. They're cozy and flirtatious. The creators of the show openly commented this. The producer, Sarah Hess, said there is an element of queerness to it. Whether you see it that way or just as the unbelievably passionate friendship that women have with each other at that age. And Emily Clark, who played young Alicent, said, "We weren't making them gay or queerbaiting or anything like that," she said. "It's just if you want to read into it and see it like that, do it. If you want to see them as more than friends, do it. If you don't, then don't. They're 14-year-old girls. They don't know the difference between platonic and romantic. They don't even know what the words mean, let alone what the feelings mean." House of the Dragon portrayed 14-year-old best friends more or less in love, but never really being allowed to go there. They grow out of it, having heterosexual relationships as adults, leaving that intimate and lovable relationship as something ambiguous in their youth. This isn't necessarily bad representation. I really liked House of the Dragon, and there are several levels to be read into that relationship. But this way of portraying female friendships as having queer undertones, but then you leave it behind as you enter adult age, is not super exciting either. It amplifies the idea that Clark put to words that they are 14-year-old girls and don't know the difference between platonic and romantic. This, that they don't know the difference, is the general norm in society. Young girls don't know the difference. But the thing is, when you're 14, you kind of often do. And therefore it was so relieving, to be honest, to see Ellie kiss Riley. I haven't played the game, and during this entire episode, I was on the edge to see if they were gonna go there. And they did. I love to see how Last of Us clearly took a stand and said, yes, Ellie is 14, but she knows that she wants to kiss Riley. This intimate friendship is just that, and something more. They did balance on the line between platonic and romantic, and Ellie knew what she wanted and crossed it. Sometimes you have to judge representation by the cliches they are not falling into. Young female queerness not being diminished to that's just how young girls are. Again, I can't stress this enough. She was allowed to be a child and still allowed to be portrayed as gay. Bury your gays? Or good queer representation can mean a lot of things for a lot of different viewers. This isn't a happy story, but it's still good representation. This is not a case of bury your gays since everyone fucking dies, more or less, except the main gay. Neither is Riley dying as a punishment for being gay, which is the core of the original trope. It's a necessary means to an end for this story and the story being told, which is a tragedy. And if gays can't be part of tragedies, then the wokeness has gone too far. What Last of Us does so well is to use zombies as a tool to tell the real story. The human ability to find beauty, purpose and hope in every situation. But also the darkness of it, that we make choices that hurt many others to save that chosen one. It really has a wonderful and unique storytelling where the apocalypse and the actual horrors are just side pieces to tell a story about the real horrors to be left behind. And now you're all like, Katja, yeah, oh my god, that's what the game is about, you basic ass bitch, make it better, analyze. Well, I didn't play the game. I haven't played the game.
I didn't know.
I thought that this would be a basic as fuck zombie show, and now I am emotionally taken by the fact that this show is a well-written, complex human study. And episode 7 is so well crafted in its symbolism of youth. The carnival date with carousels and the photo booth is well played with a stereotypical American movie date. And Ellie and Riley's shenanigans in the abandoned mall is such a wink to the dream I think we all had as a child, to be locked in a mall at night. The theme of episode 7, to have the perfect night, sidelined with the fact that this is literally their only night openly in love and last night together, is such a sad and great parallel to the teenage feeling of everything being made just for you, and those moments where you felt like you literally had the best night of your life. Again, this whole episode is a celebration of youth. The rebellion, the coming of age, that roller coaster of emotion. It's raw, it's unpretentious, and it's natural. And that is not only a rare portrayal of LGBTQ youth, it's a rare portrayal of young teenage girls, overall. The Last of Us is a great portrayal of queerness because it made space in a story that's great on its own. The gays are treated like everyone else. She's the main character, for fuck's sake. The sexuality isn't a secondhand add-in for representation points, nor does it take up an abnormal amount of space of self-identification and figuring out one's sexuality. And don't get me wrong, those stories are important, but it's also important to see young people experiencing queerness, and the queerness in itself isn't an issue. This is great representation because Ellie is a great character. She has a strong self-agency, complex personality traits, good and bad sides. Her sexuality is a minor part of who she is, but it's still an important part, just as in real life. Honestly, even though this is an apocalyptic show, it portrayed one of the most realistic portrayals that I've seen of being 14, queer and happy, even if that was just for one short scene. I'm really excited about this show and how Last of Us showed what a major production can portray and represent. I know Ellie is going to be older in season 2 if they follow the game, and I'm really excited to see where that's gonna take her. I know some stuff, but not a lot, so don't spoil anything for me in the comments if you play the game. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. By commenting or subscribing, it means a lot for the algorithm and for my ego. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you around eventually.